Good evening. My name is Andrei Bakhrach, and I'm a project manager and a business analyst at our company, OpenFrame Technologies. But for the purpose of our study analysis project, I'm going to be an interviewer. Tonight, we're going to discuss the project where our company, OpenFrame Technologies, migrated an Oracle-based system of one of our government clients, the Resource Information Management System, into SAP system. But first, let me introduce our team.
Hi, I'm Joseph Abdulazer, Project Manager and Editor.
Hola, I'm Baturina, Coordinator and Data Collector.
Mathieu Arnoux, Senior Editor.
Shaga Rusme, responsible for questionnaires.
My name is Tamer Suleiman, and I work as a project
First
manager.
of all, let me tell you that OpenFrame Technologies is an authorized official government supplier for IT and software development projects. The client for the project, for the purpose of this study project, of course, we're not using names. We call our client Development Department. It's a government agency that manages and administers oil and gas exploration and development on both federal lands and reserve lands in Canada.
Because they just merged with another government agency, and that agency was using SAP as opposed to the other product, whatever that was before. And the previous product was really outdated, and they needed to conform to the standards that SAP was using. That required a significant amount of database structural changes as well as data changes.
Government adopted agile project management methodology for their projects, which means we do not provide all the deliverables at the end of the project, which is normal for waterfall model. We provided our deliverables at the end of every cycle, every sprint cycle, which is usually 2-3 weeks. So it makes project more flexible, and we receive feedback on testing on the client sides, and it allows us to respond to any fixes, any changes, any bugs rapidly.
And now to discuss time management. In planning, estimating for the project, OpenFrame realized that the project could not be completed any earlier than May of 2014. The client was informed of this risk, however, due to their strict deadline, it was a make-or-break element of the project where OpenFrame had to have it completed by March 31st or else there was no project at all. After several meetings and extensive planning, it was determined that OpenFrame would be able to finish the task by March 31st by properly scheduling all the tasks as well as having a development department allocate additional funds for overtime work and any resources that would be needed. In order to maximize the time and properly schedule the task, the project was split into 4 phases, 2 for federal land and 2 for native land.
Initially, we were requested by the client to provide an estimate for the project. We split it into 4 phases. As I said, the first phase was database objects, and the second phase was changes to reports and then forms, etc., etc. There was like over 60 or 70 of them, not to mention the database objects themselves, which were like by the hundreds. But we quickly realized that, first of all, we didn't have much time. Secondly, estimates for all 4 phases would be about the same. And thirdly, we don't need the estimates, actually, because that would, we already know the deadline. It was March 31st.
And now to discuss the cost management. But the development department, as a part of a government organization, has annual plan in which the projects and the budgets are set for the entire year. The budget limit is defined in a comprehensive agreement that is signed with their service providers, and it is called Supply Arrangement Agreement. Thus, the budget limit was set before starting the project based on a rough estimate of the client's annual plan. Although an inclusive work breakdown structure was provided by the client, the cost calculation based on activity list and man-hour estimates was not performed for this project. Instead, a simple method was used. Since the schedule was set and could not be changed, what they did was that the team members were already selected and no new hires was planned during the life cycle. The man-hour estimates was based on the time frame, 6 months and 40 hours per week for each employee. Then the cost was calculated based on each function's rate, which was predefined by the client. At the end, a 10% buffer was added for rework and overtime.
Now talk about quality management.
First, on quality management, we must say that the specifications for each work package were elaborated by the customer. According to the project manager, they were well written. As a matter of fact, only few questions was asked by the project team on it. This makes quality planning easier as criteria have already been defined by the customer. In order to control quality, some extensive testing was made. As the project use agile methodology, there is a lot of release and each of it was tested internally by a QA tester in the development team, but also externally by the user acceptance team on the customer side. As a result, even minor bugs were identified and resolved. Furthermore, all bugs were documented in Test Track Pro, a software commonly used by software development companies. This kind of tool is very useful for communication with the customer, but also helps the project manager to do quality assurance by doing statistics on time needed for implement changes and to fix bugs. By such a way, a project manager could estimate if everything follows a normal path or if the project will be finished on time.
And now we're going to discuss human resources plan. Human resource planning included the assigning project roles, responsibilities, and reporting relationships. Only current employers of open frame technologies were working. In the middle of the project, there was some part that client would like to add. Was talking about app functionality for this project. Their project manager spent a lot of time looking for the person with the required characteristics on the market that was not easy to find and was a lot of time lost and functionality portion into independent project that would be run after this project is finished. Also, as we knew from the conversation, there was a lot of pressure due to a tight deadline for this project. And in order to support the team and like a team building activities, he mentioned that it was like after the part, each part was done, they kind of did their pizza and coke or small parties. So just to relieve the pressure.
And we need to manage the conflicts also sometimes. Some minor, not really much, but anyways, we love each other. This is like a family here, and of course, that involved some pizza time. That involved some coke, and sometimes whenever we had time, we would just enjoy fellowshipping with each other because we needed to mitigate as much as possible the stressy, sometimes tensions.
And let's move to our communication plan. Plan for this project was split into three parts. First part, first communicator, is the open frame technologies, which was the project performer. The second part is our client department, which is client and final user. And the third part is a head office. That was a client head office. The client facilitated the process of communication significantly because the part of communication with final user and the head office where open free technologies was not involved. So in this case, open frame technology was communicated only with the final client and final user. Project team was composed of 7 members, as line managers 3 members, the consumers 8 members, and senior management 2 members, and project manager. So we can see that with total we have 210 communication links, and if there was head office involved as well, that was significantly increased this amount. Also, information retrieval system consisted of every morning Scrum meetings. Meetings typically was held at the same location and same time each day, and they kind of are 15 minutes meeting to keep the discussion brisk and relevant.
Now to discuss risk management.
In this project, there was no formal risk management activities, neither identification or risk assessment. However, the team was aware that could have technical unforeseen issues and perhaps needs for experts. Therefore, they include slacks in their planning as contingency to face this.
We allowed a little additional time space for possible unforeseen circumstances, which actually was quite useful later on.
Unfortunately, those slack was not enough to face extra work needed to resolve the issue linked to hard-coded value in the old database. As a consequence, some low priorities forms were delayed after original deadline. To add to this, the hard-coded value was a known issue from past projects on the same database. And in fact, OpenFrame already warned their customer that it could be an issue. For this reason, a formal risk identification activity would have been useful for the team to identify the risk and to assess the risk in order to do a proper mitigation of it. For example, they could have identified the form that could be delayed at the beginning of the project in order to avoid surprises that could create trust between customer and OpenFrame.
And now to discuss procurement. During the planning process of this project, it was deemed that no goods or services would necessarily be needed to procure in advance. All the necessary equipment and software was already in possession of OpenFrame before the project was initiated, and no services from outside companies were deemed needed. However, over the course of the project, it seemed necessary to obtain an additional server on OpenFrame's part. Any equipment purchases needed to be approved by the development department and brought in from an approved vendor list from development department. This caused some complications for OpenFrame because the server needed to be procured quickly and OpenFrame did not have any prior relationships to any of the vendors. OpenFrame did a request for quote from all the vendors, giving them a tight deadline which required the vendors to give a price and the delivery date. The installation could be done on OpenFrame's part and was not required during the request for a quote. A vendor was chosen based on their low price and quick delivery date, thereby not causing any delays or downtime. Overall, this project has been deemed a success from both the client and organizational perspective. The project had several constraints on time, budget, and structure, mainly due to the fact that the customer was a government agency. However, even given all these constraints and the unforeseen problems that arose, OpenFrame completed the project on time and to the satisfactory of the client. The development department did not want to be interviewed for the purposes of this project analysis. However, in an email sent to our team, development department stated that the SAP migration completed by OpenFrame Technologies was a complete success and we were very satisfied with the results. Working under difficult time constraints, we were very impressed by their dedication and commitment to quality with regards to our system. Our team at Development Department have gone through many kinds of system maintenances and developments, and this one was by far the most seamless implementation any of us have ever experienced. We thank OpenFrame for their services and look forward to working with them on many projects in the near future. OpenFrame members were given a certificate of satisfaction from Development Department, signifying the level of satisfaction and how important the project was to them. Based on the success of the project, OpenFrame and Development Department will continue to have a good relationship and be given future projects with the government, which was one of the primary business objectives from OpenFrame's perspective. Thank you.